Hey folks, and welcome to Subjective Thoughts. And our book for today is Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. Now, there is a utopian futuristic society and a lot of fucked up shit being done to fetuses. So, if you are in any way squeamish, you have been warned. Also, spoilers. Alright, so this is by Vintage, the publisher. I will say their books seem to get destroyed pretty quickly. Or worn out, I should say, on the edges. I don't know, maybe it's just for me. But yes, so Brave New World is another one of those classics I've heard of, but have yet to read. Have yet to read. One of those classics I heard of and finally read, sorry. And, no, like with a lot of them, I didn't know exactly what it was about, so I went into it pretty much with no idea. But I did hear it revolved the engineering or artificially making babies. So that is in fact it. So this is a futuristic society where there's no more family. The concept of family is completely gone from people's minds. It's smut, it's taboo. People are now created in a factory. There's this very long line. And not only are they created in a factory, they are also all created differently in this factory to fit a certain function in society. There's levels, there's delta, epsilons, alphas, omega. Are there omegas? I know there were deltas. There's a bunch of them. Some are, they're all manipulated from the time they're just, a sperm and an egg to be a certain way. There's like this whole explanation in the beginning about the assembly line and what they do to them. And it is some horrid shit. Really horrid shit. How they make some of them purposefully mentally retarded, even to serve a certain purpose. And of course, a lot of restrictions, and there's no more solitude. Everyone has to be together. And also, there's no marriages either. Everyone belongs to everyone. So everyone fucks everyone, basically. Yes. At least men and women. I don't know. Oh, there's no mention of men, women, women. I don't know. But yes, that's the society. And throughout the book is basically explained. It's all of these themes that Mr. Huxley was concerned about at the time he published this book. Things that would happen with humanity. This book was originally published in 1932. So it's yeah, and obviously I didn't catch all the themes. Fortunately, I'm not that educated, but I think some of them were definitely overpopulation, maybe consumerism, the idea of the family, maybe even promiscuity, perhaps. Um, I don't know, maybe something about the government controlling information too. I could be wrong. I do have a book called that I got Brave New World Revisited, where Mr. Huxley goes back 30 years later to revisit the themes. So when I read that one, I will probably understand that better. But yes, throughout the book, you basically see all these themes and how society works there, and all the technological advances they have. And my problem with this was reading it. I mean, not with the themes, the reading, because it's not like you have a main character that you follow. It's like a lot of this is just essentially information dump. You constantly get long pages of, okay, how this works. Because in the beginning, it's like 20 pages of that, which made it hard for me to get into the story. Because it was just constant explanations on all this, which is fine. I mean, that's the point, right? But it's not explained in a way where you follow the character and you see all these things. So it's more like sitting and just reading all this information. which doesn't make much for an engaging story, perhaps. So yeah, you follow several characters, but not really. They're more used to talk about the themes. Essentially, they're more like puppets to use that for. You also have the savages who live outside of these cities. The whole world is like that, by the way. And how one of these savages actually comes into their society because he is actually okay. So the savages here are the Indians, which some now I'm not sure what year it would be here. I guess the 1930s, probably, or maybe later on. I don't remember what year it was in that future, but I just struggled to believe that the Indians there would just be they haven't advanced at all. I mean, they even have people from the cities go visit the wild reservations, as they're called, and some Indians who serve as guides. So you want to tell me they wouldn't pick up anything at all? I don't know. That seemed a bit strange, but anyway. So so yeah, this Indian, not Indian. What am I saying? This savage. His name is John, and his mother actually came from this society. She was on this wild reservation with one of the other characters, and she got lost after she went for a walk and hit her head. And so they found her and treated her, but she ended up being stuck there because she got pregnant somehow. I mean, even they have birth control, but it's not foolproof. I think they mentioned there's a center where you can go get an abortion. So she didn't call up anyone, so she's been stuck there for 30 years when two of the other characters go visit, and as one of them named Bernard has heard from his boss who wants to send him to Iceland that he figures out this is the girl, and I was like, oh, that's convenient. As I was reading his boss telling him this, I was like, this is gonna be relevant later, isn't it? So yeah, they bring him back to their society and bring back his mother, who's happy to be there. She's gotten very bloated and stuff. In their world, in their society, people don't age beyond 60. And there's all sorts of stuff they give them so they'll still look pretty young. And then they just ship them to the hospital to die. And then they cremate them. So there's no concept of mourning someone. They just get them used to death early on from a young age. So obviously John's not really not doing well in this society. We get him talking to Mustafa Mound. He's like the controller of there's world controllers, and he's one of them. And this story takes place in London. And he talks to John, and he shows him all the forbidden books. Two of the characters get sent to islands where people that get sent there, especially, are people who just don't fit into these societies. So although it may seem like a punishment, it's actually freedom for them because they won't have to obey the society's rules anymore. That's it, and then John is not allowed to go with Bernard and his friend the to this island. And so he goes to find another place outside of London to stay, but people discover where he is and tries to beat them away. But he has a whip, and now he lived with the Indians all his life, and he's he's learned their customs and does a lot of them. So he punishes himself with a whip for certain thoughts and liking this one girl from this society, but again, they just wouldn't mix well because of how he grew up and how she grew up. There's also hypnopedia in this society. It's where they, from a young age, from the time they're babies even, they just put recorders under their beds, the pillow, and in their sleep, they learn all this stuff, and throughout their lives, they keep repeating it. It's a lot of fucked up shit. So yes, in the end, John, after one incident where a bunch of people come to view him to see him like he's some kind of monkey. They starts whipping at them, and then they start whipping each other, hitting each other. I mean, because the concept of pain is not something that's usual in their society. Everything in their society is calm and pleasant, and there's no worries or trouble. And they all leave, and then the next day when John wakes up after all this, he remembers it, and I guess he just fucking freaks out, because the next day some more people arrive, go into his... He's in some mill, I think. He starts living in some abandoned mill. Was it a mill or a lighthouse? No, the lighthouse? No, it wouldn't make sense. Some mill, I think. And from what I understand from the last 2 pages, John hung himself. So he's dead. If I read that correctly, because they go in and they see 2 legs hanging there, and I'm going back and forth, so I take it he just committed suicide. And that's it. You're right. Now, I know I didn't really describe the plot very well here, I'm sorry, but the plot is just... You move around and I guess get told of these certain themes that Mr. Huxley wanted to talk about, and that's it. Now, maybe I'm just too used to futuristic stories having an oppressive government or this fucked up future, and then there's a group of rebels, or at least someone that's trying to make a change to it. And maybe because it didn't have it here, I just wasn't that into it. I don't know. Although it's also the fact that it's not even a third person story where it actually follows the characters and stuff, like in Minority Report, for instance, by Philip K. Dick. You follow that one's also in third person, but the thing is, you follow the character, and that's how you learn about the world. And here, as I've said already, it's like an information dump. At least it seems like that to me. And so it's... What I'm trying to say is, I think Mr. Huxley should have just wrote down the themes he wanted to talk about, and that's it. Kind of like an essay, maybe. Because as a story, it's not really particularly fascinating, and it doesn't really have any satisfying conclusion, I would say. I don't know, man, maybe just to me. I was left like, what was the point of the soul? What does it mean with John committing suicide? That he couldn't take it in the society? I don't know. But yeah, the ideas here are pretty scary, and also not thinking about it, I guess they also cured all sexually transmitted diseases then. Since everyone's fucking everyone, you imagine at some point someone would get something, right? I mean... Yeah, reading this was both interesting and really fucking bizarre, because seeing their way of life was so strange. Which is logical, you enter any new society where things work different than what you're used to, and it's so weird to you. And heroes especially, like no family, people not having children, no families at all. Everyone's like never meant to be in solitude, but yet, you don't have people living together. They all just live in their own apartments, but they're never alone, supposedly. And, and there's only like a certain number of men and women that they allow in the society to be fertile. Many are sterile. Like they have these this one man who came up with this where they just make many sets of twins, and those are usually the ones that work the low jobs. It's just so scary. It's like they make humans in this factory, and it doesn't even feel like you're reading about humans. It's just these, I don't know, these machines they're making. And it's all very fucked up. And just the fact that everyone has everyone seems really weird. Ugh. Talk about an AIDS epidemic waiting to happen. But yes, although I was intrigued while I read, there were dull parts that made it hard to get through the book. But, yeah, that's about it. I don't know what really else to say. I know there is a movie based on this book, but I read it's loosely based. And I can see why. This is like Minority Report again with Philip K. Dick, where when they did the movie, they took aspects from it. Because if you read the story Minority Report, although it's far more interesting than this, there's also not that much to it. Not very Hollywood ending. So here, I guess is the same. I am curious to see the movie though, just to what have they done with the movie? Where did they take it? Did they do the almost the same thing, or did they make a lot of changes to make it more interesting story wise? I don't know. I guess if I ever do watch it, I will find out. But yeah, overall, the ideas themselves, although a bit horrifying, were very interesting. I'm also thinking it's a good thing Mr. Huxley's not alive today. I don't know what he would think if he was alive today. Because from what I understand, he was quite horrified when he revisited the book 30 years later. Which makes me wonder how old he was, because in the first, I mean, he published it in 32, and then I guess in the 60s he went back to it, but I wonder how old he was. Did he publish this book when he was in his 30s or when he was in his 20s? I gotta look that up. But yeah, that's about it. Sorry for the slightly jumbled thoughts. I wasn't exactly even sure what to say about it. But I did want to talk about it. I don't think I would have liked to live in this sort of society. Although, again, if I was born and conditioned like these people are into it, I guess I wouldn't even think about it. But you see that even though they are conditioned, there's still occasionally people that are born that still don't fit into the society. And thus they send them away to islands to, in a way, I guess, be happy because they're essentially at a point where they don't feel any strong emotions. They're constantly supposed to be happy and calm, and once a month they have these adrenaline procedures for them. It's very disturbing, and also something. What makes it even more scary is you could totally see this being something that happens in the future. Just I don't know, governments thinking, oh, let's start manufacturing people for certain jobs, so we wouldn't have anyone complaining. Hey, shit, right? And I don't know if they would be as nice as here in the story where they said people don't fit into islands, or if they would just fucking kill them. I mean, not that anyone's gonna miss you. You don't have a family. Just another aspect that would have been interesting. Like, what happens if you know someone or you're friends with someone who's pretty young, or I should say pretty old, well, by their standards, and then they just, do they miss that person? Do they talk about that person? Or do they just move on? Who knows? Alright, folks, so that is it. Let me know if you read Brave New World. What did you think about it? Did you enjoy it? Did you understand all the themes Mr. Huxley was trying to say and was trying to talk about? Did you not enjoy it? Let me know down below in the comments. Also, I will say I do like the cover. It's pretty cool with the swirlies. Alright, so that is it. Now remember, collect what you're passionate about and share it on YouTube. Bye!